today's video, I'm going to be comparing two popular brands of toe spacers. These ones by Spacer Mobility and these ones by Correct Toes. Of course, I'll be sharing what they actually do and the benefits of them, a little bit about each company themselves, the pros and cons of each pair, where I purchased them from and how much they cost. Just a small disclaimer before I get started, I'm not medically trained or qualified, so this video is just purely based on my own personal experience and journey of wearing toe spacers so far. I recommend that you do your research thoroughly beforehand, just like I did. There's a huge host of information online and lots of professional accounts on social media, for example, that you can follow to gain some really good advice. Hi, welcome back to my channel and thanks for joining me. So if you're new here, my name is Meg, welcome to Red Curl Vegan. If you're already subscribed or you've stumbled across my videos in the past, then you may know that I am a huge advocate for minimalist footwear. So I've been wearing barefoot or zero drop shoes now exclusively for the past 2 years, but today's video is just about toe spacers. So I definitely encourage you to go and check out the videos that are already on my channel where I review multiple different pairs of barefoot shoes and different brands and where I share about all the many benefits of zero drop footwear. I felt that toe spacers was sort of the natural next step and progression in my healthy foot journey. So that's what I'm going to be talking all about today. I'll give you a comparison of both pairs and then at the end I'll share which ones are my favourite. So let's get right into it. Okay, so I'm going to start with the Correct Toes toe spacers. Now, I bought these back in spring of 2023, so a good 6 months ago now, and I purchased them from a yoga retailer online called Yoga Matters. So Correct Toes is actually an American company. They have their own website, but being based in the UK, I wanted to purchase them from a UK supplier. They have a section on their website where you can find multiple different retailers all over the world. I think there are about 4 in the UK. And Yoga Matters was the one that I felt was most appropriate for me. It sells a lot of other things that in the future I'll be interested in buying as well, so I went for Yoga Matters. In terms of price, they are quite expensive, I have to admit. These were £55, although I did get a 10% welcome discount for subscribing to Yoga Matters, so that definitely encouraged me to buy from them. But yes, £55, they are an American company, and upon doing the research for this video, I realised that they have a pretty in-depth website, which I hadn't quite realised because I just purchased them directly from Yoga Matters. So they have a shop where they sort all of their different products by type and also by foot condition, so I definitely recommend you go and check that out. I will link that in the description box for you. They do also seem to sell barefoot shoes and toe socks as well, which is obviously something I'm also very passionate about and that I already own. I had a quick look and they also sell Vivo barefoot shoes and Injinji toe socks, which are both brands that I already own. So it's definitely a very healthy foot and healthy toe oriented website, which, like I say, I recommend you definitely check out. So they do come in various sizes. These are a size small or size S, and they do have a size chart or size guide on their website and also on whichever retailer website you choose to buy them from. So in terms of how they're made and how comfortable they are pretty flexible. They do bend around in the middle quite well, and these little divider parts are quite nice and supple, but I will say that the outer edges, so the big toe side and the little toe side, are quite rigid. They're a lot harder than the rest of the toe spacer, if that makes sense. So the pinky toe sits on the outside there, and if I remember correctly, the big toe sits on the outside of there as well. So I will pop photos and clips up on screen for you throughout the video, as well as when I show you the other ones, so that you can see exactly what they look like on and what they actually do. So toe spacers are designed to hopefully realign the natural splay of your toes. So they are designed for people with bunions or people who have deformities, but also people who just generally want to improve the general splay and the natural position of their toes. So restrictive footwear, as I've said all about on my channel already in lots of videos, is very damaging to our feet. Conventional mainstream shoes are very restrictive, they're not toe shaped, and they affect our feet in all sorts of ways. You'll probably be familiar with how many of us out there potentially have bunions and issues with our toes. There are lots of knock-on effects, negative knock-on effects of wearing restrictive footwear, but like I said, I'm just going to try and focus in this video on talking about toe spacers, because I have lots of videos already where I talk about the benefits of barefoot shoes, but toe spacers sort of work along the same lines of barefoot shoes, where they allow your toes to spread in a more natural way, and hopefully over time, with general day-to-day use and possibly also strengthening exercises, hopefully your toes can regain a more natural shape. So I will be honest up front, I never particularly had any major bunion issues or any big deformities. I think I caught my feet early enough in life. Like I said, I've been wearing barefoot shoes now exclusively for 2 years. And I also wear toe socks, which is a video that's going to be coming next week, which I'll be talking all about why I transitioned and all the different pairs that I own. So I don't feel that I particularly had any major problems with my toes. I will show you in the photos what my feet look like naturally. I think that they have been caught, like I said, early enough in life that I didn't develop anything particularly worrying, but it doesn't stop me from wearing things like barefoot shoes and toe spacers and toe socks, because my toes can only get better, and if anything, they're not going to get worse. So I would say that these are great for first-time users or beginners, for those of you who perhaps don't wear barefoot shoes, or perhaps for those of you who are new to toe spacers and this whole new foot health and natural toe splay world that's becoming more and more talked about nowadays, which is a great thing. I have tried them in shoes once and I didn't find them very comfortable. Like I said, the outer edges are quite rigid compared to the inner slots, so to speak. So I found that they dug in a little bit. I didn't particularly find them very comfortable. However, I will be honest that that was only the first handful of times that I'd ever worn these all together, so that may have something to do with it. But personally, I would just recommend them for sort of naked toe wear, if that makes sense. So without socks on, without shoes on, if you can, wear them around the house or even just lounging around. So in terms of comfort, they are not an exaggerated, or they don't produce an exaggerated splay, which you may see in the photos that I'll pop up on the screen. They're fairly low key and mild in terms of spread, so that's why I think that these are better suited for beginners or people who aren't used to the likes of toe spacers and barefoot shoes, for example. Okay, so moving on to the spacer mobility toe spacers, these guys here. So as you can probably already tell, they are a lot more flexible and malleable and softer than the correct toes. This is the 4-loop version. So Spacer Mobility do a 4-loop and a 5-loop version. The 5-loop version basically just has an extra strap on the pinky toe here, but they do have a small chart on their website where they explain the difference between both of them. So again, I will link their website in the description box. So Spacer Mobility is also an American company. However, their shop and the products that they sell, the toe spacers, for example, do come up in British pounds, for me anyway. So I'm not quite sure whether that's because they have a warehouse here that distributes their products. So I discovered Spacer Mobility and Correct Toes via a barefoot shoe account, which I can't recall the name now, but there's many on Instagram, legitimate ones of course, that have a lot of professional advice. So that's where I heard all about toe spacers. I'd never heard of them up until last year. So these, in terms of cost, they are a lot less pricey than the Correct Toes. These come in at just £21, and the 5-loop version also costs the same, which is quite handy. They don't come in different sizes, but because they are so incredibly stretchy and flexible, I'm guessing that's why they're sort of unisex, so to speak. So in terms of their comfort, I would say that they are more comfortable than the Correct Toes, just in terms of how flexible and soft they are. They don't dig in, especially not on the outer edges like these ones did a little bit. They're completely flexible, sort of all round, if that makes sense. There are, I think, a few differences of opinion, or I think that people wear them both ways up. I'm not entirely sure which is the right way, but when I looked on their website, most of the people that were wearing them in their photos were wearing them that way down, I think. I don't know. In the photos that I pop up on screen, I will wear them the way that I usually wear them, which off the top of my head I can't quite remember which way around that is at the moment, but I think it's like that. They've got a little squiggle here, which is, you probably can't see that on camera, but that's their logo, and that goes over the big toe. So in my opinion, that sort of goes that way. So the bumps go into the spaces between our toes. So in terms of comfort, like I said, a lot more flexible, a lot softer than the correct toes, and also don't dig in anywhere, and they sort of adapt to any toe shape and foot size. I feel that these are a much more exaggerated, or they produce a much more exaggerated splay, and you'll see from the photos that it's quite significant how much they stretch your toes apart. So I recommend, and I think their website also recommends, that you increase your wear time very gradually, very slowly. Start with just a few minutes and then gradually increase that time as you go on. I would recommend to just, go slowly and gradually. If you aren't accustomed to toe spacers or even barefoot shoes, if you've been wearing restrictive conventional shoes, mainstream shoes like I did your whole life, and then you suddenly put toe spacers on, it might be a bit of a shock to the system. And even though I am used to wearing barefoot shoes and I walk around the house barefoot all the time, I still found them quite an intense stretch, and I found the splay quite intense. But after a couple of uses, I really got used to it, and I sort of wear them around the house in general. At the moment in the UK, it's winter, it's very cold, so I am wearing multiple layers of socks, including toe socks. I don't wear house slippers or house socks, whatever you like to call them, because I like to try and be as barefoot as possible with as little sort of restrictive material as possible. So I will be honest that at the moment I'm not wearing them just on the basis that I'm wearing multiple different layers of socks, but in the summer and springtime when it's a bit warmer, I wear them quite regularly throughout the day when I'm either cooking or just generally walking around, or if I happen to be lounging around on the sofa. They are quite, like I say, intense in terms of the stretch and the splay, but over time I've sort of gotten used to that, and I find them quite comfortable. So I would say personally, in terms of healthy feet, that the full package would be to wear barefoot shoes, to wear toe spacers like these or the correct toes, to wear toe socks, to do strengthening exercises and mobility exercises, and to walk barefoot as much as possible. Now, the strengthening and mobility exercises, I'll admit I don't personally engage in. It's probably something that's next on my list, or sort of the next step in my full package journey, so to speak. And in terms of wearing these with conventional shoes, I think they would possibly hurt. It would definitely cause more rubbing, just because they are in an exaggerated way spreading your toes out into a shape that won't fit into conventional shoes. So even with barefoot shoes, you can feel the effects of them. But in my opinion, if you wear toe spacers and you invest in them and you're interested in healthier feet and you really are passionate about making sure your body is as healthy as it possibly can be, then I feel that wearing conventional shoes after you've worn these, particularly not with them, but continuing to wear conventional mainstream shoes, would sort of undo and be counteracted by the benefits of toe spacers. So I would personally recommend just wearing barefoot shoes anyway, just because I am such a huge advocate for them and they are so much better for us than restrictive conventional footwear. But like I said, there is a full package in my opinion. So toe socks, toe spacers, barefoot shoes, mobility and strengthening exercises, and walking barefoot as much as possible. Obviously, if you're doing one or two of these, it's going to be better than nothing, but ideally you want to be wearing toe spacers, throughout the day for half an hour or so, however you prefer, or even exercising, and then wearing barefoot shoes when you're out and about. That way you're sort of guaranteeing that you are making your investment go the full way, if that makes sense, and you're really getting the most out of this healthy footwear and toe gear that's now available to us. So on the subject of mobility and strengthening exercises, which like I said, admittedly I don't really engage in, although I do practice yoga once a week at the moment, and I feel that that definitely helps, not specifically my toes, but it definitely helps with mobility and strengthening and flexibility in general. But toe spacers, so the Spacer Mobility website does have other products as well. So they have a massage ball and a rock mat, for example, and a mobility wedge. So I would recommend checking out their other gear as well if that's of interest to you, to sort of get the full package. So to wrap this video up, I imagine you've already guessed which is my favourite pair, and that is these ones by Spacer Mobility. So it's not that the correct toes are any worse or that they don't do a good job. They're designed by professionals and experts. But like I said about the rigidness, I don't know what the word is, how rigid the outsides are. They dig in slightly here on the tops. I just don't feel that they are as comfortable. These are a lot softer. Also, the fact that these are half the price is also very appealing, and they're much more flexible, much more stretchy. In terms of durability, I do worry that these won't last as long as the correct toes, just on the basis that they are so flexible and this material is so stretchy, that I do worry about this big toe strap. So I recommend you do put them on very carefully. I think somewhere on their Instagram page there is a video which shows you, or even on their website, how to sort of pull them off carefully. So you want to sort of pull them away from the middle, if that makes sense. You don't want to be pulling them off the toe like that, because the material would snap. But yeah, they're half the price, they're more flexible, they're more comfortable, and also the splay is more exaggerated. So in my opinion, I don't think that toe spacers are aiming to permanently position your toes in the splay that these stretch them as. I think that the point is to sort of go so far the other way that they correct any sort of misalignment or deformities that you may have had previously. They don't guarantee sort of full fixing of your toes, and like I said at the start, I'm not medically trained or qualified, so you definitely need to do your research beforehand. Everybody's toes and feet and background and health in general are different, so it's a very personal experience, I think. But yes, on balance, I definitely prefer the Spacer Mobility ones. I think that I actually like the more exaggerated splay, even though it was a bit of a shock to the system initially. But I just generally find them a bit more comfortable, even though they strain the toes more. I think that overall these are more beneficial, and they're also cheaper as well. Okay, so there we go. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I do hope that you found it helpful. If you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe if you haven't already. I can't tell you how much it means to me as a small content creator to have your support. Definitely let me know in the comments if there's anything you feel I missed out, or if there's anything else you'd like to know. And also if you'd like to share your journey with us about wearing toe spacers, or whether it's something that you've been looking into and that you're interested in, or even if you're an avid barefoot shoe wearer, whatever your background might be, I'd love to hear from you in the comments, and also any recommendations that you might have for myself so that I can improve my content for you. Like I said during the video, I will be doing another video next week all about toe socks, which I'm really excited about because I've got multiple pairs now that I'm looking forward to sharing with you. In the meantime, take care and stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.